Welcome back to an episode of Minister Truth. I am your only host on this show. Got a few things we're going to go over today, a couple of current events, President Donald Trump with a gaggle. We're going to learn a little bit more about Lindsey Graham and Vladimir Zelensky, and then I don't remember what else I have left other than that. Maybe more, maybe less, all depends how I feel, and continue on this morning. What's up, dude? Anyway, like anything else, before we get started, need to get a little mood music. And, typically I would play this on a Friday. What's up, Rockstar? How you doing, brother? Typically, I don't know when I would normally play this, or that the words would match. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. Let's get the song started so I can get my herbs ready for my medication process.
Too fast.
Drop.
Too furious. I'm too fast for y'all, man. Drop. Too fast. Drop. Too furious. Oh, I'm too fast for y'all. Oh, you just came home from doing a bid. Tell me what you gon' do. Act a fool. Somebody broke in and cleaned out your crib. Boy, what you gon' do? Act a fool. Just bought a new pair and they scuffed your shoes. Tell me what you gon' do. Act a fool. Now them cops trying to throw you in them county blues. Boy, what you gon' do? Act a fool. Talking about traps, cops and robbers. It's 911, please call the doctor. Evacuate the building and trick the pigs. Since everybody want a piece, we gon' split your wig. See some fools slipped up and overstepped their boundaries. You about to catch a cold, stay the from around me. Your peeps talking about what kind of she on. You'll disappear like poof. Be gone. You think 12 gon' catch me? Give me a break. I'm supercharged with a hideaway license plate. It seems they wanna fingerprint me and give me some years. They'll only get one finger while I'm shifting gears. I got suede on my roof, wood grain on the dash, sheepskin on the rug, golden grain in the stash. Hydraulics all around, so I shake the ride. We go front, back, and side to side. Some punk just tripped up and made you spill your drink. Tell me what you gon' do. Act a fool. Now your car just stopped on an empty tank. Boy, what you gon' do? Act a fool. If you got late bills and you lost your job, tell me what you gon' do. Act a fool. If you about to get drunk and you ready to mob, boy, what you gon' do? Act a fool. Let's take it to the streets, cause I'm ready to cruise. Just bought me and my cars all some brand new shoes. And the people just there, so I love to park it. And I just put a computer in the glove compartment. With my pedal to the floor, radar on the grill. TV in the middle of my steering wheel. It's my car's birthday, so we blowing them candles. More speakers in the trunk than my ride can handle. Got my name in the headrest, read it and weep. Nice tank in the back, camel hair on the seat. And when I pull up to the club, I get all the affection. Cause the women love the paint and they can see their reflection. I'm about to take off, so F what you heard. Because my side mirrors flap like a fucking bird. And for the fools, we gon' clock one, then we'll one. Cause my folk riding shotgun with a...
Enough about that. Gonna head into our first little segment of the day, and this is going to be that press gaggle with Donald Trump right before he gets onto Marine One. And where's he going? JBA, Joint Base Anderson. Anyway, let me try to figure that out in a minute, but let's listen to what he's got to say. And of course, as usual, I will give my opinion because, well, that's why y'all are really here. Hurry up, Donald.
Okay, thank you very much. We had a very good weekend in many respects. We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms
The
of
rotors are off.
the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous.
No
when
shit,
she
Rockstar.
announced. But that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers
The jobs
on
report.
Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So
They lied
it's a
about
scam, in
statistics
my
and numbers,
opinion.
and she
My
got
opinion
fired
is
with
just
a quickness.
it's just additional scam.
On Russia, Mr. President, can you say, have those nuclear submarines been deployed yet to face Russia?
Yes.
I've already put out a statement, and the answer is they are in the region, yeah, where they have to be.
Can you say what Steve Witkoff's message will be to the Russians? Is there anything they can do to avoid sanctions at this point?
Yeah, get a deal where people stop getting killed. They had a number that just came out that a tremendous number of Russian soldiers are being killed.
20,000.
And likewise, Ukraine, a lower number, but still thousands
7,000.
and thousands of people. And now we're adding towns where they're being hit by missiles. So it's a lot of people being killed in that ridiculous war. And, you know, we stopped a lot of countries from war, India and Pakistan. We stopped a lot of countries.
All right.
And we're going to get that one stopped too. Somehow we're going to get that one stopped. That's a really horrible war. You heard about Cambodia and Thailand. We got that one done. We got the Congo, which was going on for 31 years. Rwanda. That one's done. We stopped a lot of wars. This is the one we seem to be, this should be the easiest to stop, and it's not. I mean, Rwanda and Congo were going on 31 years, and I got it stopped. 8 million people dead, at least. That's what they have, but I think the number's much higher. And the leaders of each country, Rwanda and the Congo, they were great.
Good to see you.
They were great, and they wanted it stopped. 31 years it went on. We stopped a lot of wars. Serbia, Kosovo was going to be happening, and I don't believe it will now, so we stopped that one too. Yes.
You said you had more of an update to give us on Gaza, on the Gaza Strip. Can you give us any?
Only we want the people fed, and we're the only country that's really doing that. We're putting up money to get the people fed, and Steve Witkoff is doing a great job, and we want Israel to get them fed.
I mean, if he was doing such a great job, then why are we providing all the food? And the rest of the world's like, nah. We care. Just not that much.
We're giving some pretty big contributions, basically to purchase food so the people can be fed. We don't want people going hungry, and we don't want people to starve. And there's some bad things happening.
How many people are starving in America, Donald?
I don't think it's sad. Look, they're in a war. Some horrible things happened on October 7th, as you know. It was a horrible, horrible thing. One of the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things since I'm president in terms of wars and potential wars. I mean, if you look at the one that we just stopped, they had thousands of people being dead already at the border between Thailand and Cambodia. Thousands of people. And I mean, I've seen some bad things, but that October 7th was with Hamas was really, really bad.
Mr. President, can you give us an update on Steve Witkoff in Russia, and what happens on Friday if the deadline comes and Russia has not agreed to a ceasefire?
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions, so we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him.
Wait, you're sending somebody to Russia?
That he meet, so we'll see what happens.
Mr. President, what advice do you have for Republicans on Capitol Hill heading into midterms? What do they need to do? What can they do to, hold?
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. You know, we've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean 1,400, 1,500%. Because we're going favored nations. We want the same price as Europe gets. We want the same price as other country gets. And over the years, 25, 30 years ago, it started where they were charging us much more. And I put an end to it, with the letter that you saw last week. So I think that's going to be a point. I don't know how anybody could win an election if they're on the other side of that issue. So we'll be dropping drug prices. It'll start over the next 2 to 3 months by 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400% and 500%,
I don't
but not just
see how that's even
50% or
possible.
25%, which normally would be a lot, because the rest of the world pays much less for the identical drug. And we're going to be paying the same thing. We're going to have a favored nations. We will pay as low as the lowest nation in the world.
And then,
So
Mr.
zero.
President, I think it just came out 29 billion in July taken in tariff revenue. Could we see a potential rebate here, and what would that look like, and who would qualify?
Well, we're going to pay down debt. We have a lot of money coming in, much more money than the country's ever seen, by hundreds of billions of dollars. And there could be a distribution or a dividend to the people of our country. I would say for people that would be middle income people and lower income people, we could do a dividend. But one of the things we're going to be doing is reducing debt. But we have hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into our country now. We should have done this many years ago. And I did it in my
Why didn't you
first
do it?
term with China. We didn't get to the rest because COVID hit. And you couldn't really go to France and Spain and Italy and say, let's start talking about some tariffs. But China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we did it then. And then Biden screwed it all up. He screwed everything he touched, he screwed up. So, thank you.
When will you endorse Winsome Earl Sears in the
He's
Virginia
free.
governor's race?
Yeah, I would. I would. I think probably she's got a tough race. She shouldn't have. But because the candidate she's running against is not very good. But I think she's got a tough race. But I would, yeah.
When will you swear in Janine Pirro to be the
I will
U.S. Attorney
happily
for D.C.?
swear in Janine Pirro, who's going to be fantastic at what she does in D.C.
Another Fox News
over the
contributor.
next very short period of time.
What's up, Gil?
I think she's going to be fantastic. Don't forget, Janine Pirro was a great judge and a great prosecutor.
And a Fox
And
News
because she was
contributor.
so good, I was there. She was an amazing prosecutor and judge. And because she was so good, they drafted her into show business. And she did fantastic. You know, The Five was the #1 show, et cetera, et cetera. Janine Pirro was also really good at that. But her real love is exactly what she's doing. And that's what made her such a success in show business. So Janine Pirro is going to be amazing. And I'll swear her in as soon as we can swear her in. We need her. She's going to be amazing.
For DC.
Are you happy with how the Rose Garden turned out? And will you have some kind of event at the Rose Garden? Are you happy with how it turned out?
Yeah, we're getting great reviews on the Rose Garden, and we had to do it. As an example, when we had a press conference, you'd sink into
Come on, Forbes.
it would take 3, 4, 5 days for it to dry out, and we couldn't use it for really the intended purpose. So whether they had events or they had news conferences, we couldn't use it.
Flagpole.
And it's a beautiful white stone, and it's a stone that's the same color as the White House itself. And because it's very white, it's going to reflect the heat. It's not going to be very hot, like if you had a dark stone. So,
Whoa.
yeah, we've gotten great reviews on the Rose Garden.
Any update on the search for the Federal Reserve Board? Have you been interviewing candidates?
No, I have a couple of people in mind. I'll be announcing somebody for the filling of the person that left. A woman left, as you know, who was I guess a Biden
Left or was forced out?
either Biden or Obama, but I think a Biden appointment. And she left early, and I think she left because she agreed with me on interest rates, and yet they were on the other side of the ballpark, right? So I'll be announcing that probably over the next couple of days.
Mr. President, Mr. President, one more
What's up,
on tariffs
Angela?
here. As you continue to, pile up these trade deals, are you kind of gaining more leverage over countries that haven't come out?
Yeah, I'm not looking for leverage. I'm looking for fairness. We want reciprocal as much as possible. Sometimes reciprocal would be too much for them to handle because it would be a much bigger number. But we want to see some reciprocity. We want to see reciprocal wherever we can. And all I can say is this: our country will be taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. You just said it. Already we're taking in, billions and billions of dollars. And it was very unfair. The world treated us very unfair. But the next big move is going to be the price of drugs. because you could buy something in
I could have
London
sworn
or
Biden did
in
that already.
Germany,
Trump did it in his
someplace in
previous
Germany
term.
or many countries where it's 1/10, 1/3.
That's right. Trump did negotiate that stuff in his first term. And then Biden took it over like, yeah, look what I did. With some American pharmaceutical company, which I haven't seen their name come up again.
1/4, but sometimes 1/10 the price of what it costs to buy it in New York or some other place. And we're not doing that anymore. We're not allowing that anymore. That started many years ago when people were asleep at the wheel in this country, and they allowed that to happen, and I'm stopping it.
I'm a UN ambassador. Will that still be a cabinet level position, sir, or not?
I don't know. I haven't determined that yet. That's a good question. I'll make a decision. He's a very good guy, but I'll make a decision.
Mr. President, what is your relationship with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence with Laura
Laura
Loomer? What
Loomer.
kind of influence does she have in
I
the White
think
House?
she's very nice. I mean, I know she's known as a radical right, but I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, you know, personally, I think she's a patriot. And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot. And she doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country. I like her. Okay?
Mr. President, actress Sydney Sweeney, it came out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney, she's like a very hot
Oh, yeah.
actress right
She's
now.
a
If the left had any other reason to hate Sydney Sweeney besides that, you know, she's white and, you know, attractive, she's also a Republican now. I caught Laura Loomer once on Rumble, and within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, nah, I'm done.
registered Republican? Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't.
I mean, that's actually true. You'd be surprised. But, you know, of course, Sydney Sweeney wouldn't have to be anti-woke because, well, she knew that ad was going to create controversy. So did American Eagle. And she's a Democrat, a registered Republican. Yeah, they hate her. How could they hate Sydney Sweeney anymore? Isn't there nothing she could do, right? What the fuck? Hold on. Let's replay that.
Wow.
9:21.
Oh my god, girl! Was it your first
good.
time? That was really good.
You're going dog nuts. I mean,
Ready, girl.
First time.
Yes.
Not only does she have good genes, American Eagle, the bitch can shoot. Holy fuck. I've seen police and soldiers that can't shoot that good. Yeah, they hate her. If they weren't sure about it now, they're sure. Which one is this? Is this out of order? No. So they're supposed to have a vote to redistrict the what is it supposed to? Redistrict Texas's voting locations. Instead of looking like, you know, a boot stuck in the middle of Texas, they're trying to make it more realistic, the way the city is, the way the towns are, and the way the counties are. And people are mad. People are mad, especially with people like Jasmine Crockett, because she just might lose her seat. Now, we're supposed to have a vote on it this week, and somehow Democrats in the state of Texas, instead of coming to work like they're paid to do, fled Texas to places like Illinois.
More than 50 members of the Texas House of Representatives fleeing to Chicago in protest of Republican efforts to redistrict the Lone Star State ahead of the
And it's
midterm
not the
elections.
first time they've done
And
it.
Democrats are having a field day with the proposed changes.
We've got to do things that perhaps in the past I would not have supported. This is an authoritarian move by the White House to try to make sure that they can rig the election.
If Republicans were confident on their policy agenda, they'd be eager to defend it with the people and to defend it at the ballot box next November.
I care about illegals. I was just trying to ask the secretary a question.
But they know they're in trouble. So they're trying to rig the system to hold on to power next November.
Democracy itself, freedom itself are at stake here, and we cannot allow for an
So if
Orban-style...
democracy is at stake, why aren't they there voting? Wouldn't it be the democratic thing to do instead of running away?
One-party system takeover of our entire government. So we've got to do whatever we can to fight back.
All right, let's bring in Fox News contributor Mary Catherine Ham. Mary Catherine, great to see you. Democrats appear to be very bothered by this. What say you?
This is so embarrassing. Just go and do your jobs in the House that you were elected to. Look, this happened.
I'm glad she thinks this is embarrassing, because you know why? These Democrats that are leaving Texas when they're supposed to be voting, doing their job, doing what they're paid to do. But Republicans, more precisely, House Republicans, what are you guys doing right now? What are you guys doing right now for the next month? How many bills are you going to pass? I'll answer it for you. None. You guys aren't doing shit for the next month. Don't just blame it on the Republicans there, Democrats. You're complicit as well. Why don't you stay like, hey, we're going to have all these committees anyway? That's what you get paid $175,000 a year to do.
Every now and then where Republicans basically do the playbook that Democrats have been running for a while, and then Democrats go, wait, you're not supposed to do that. Only we're supposed to do that. Now we're going to leave our elected state and evade the democratic process in order to thwart you using these tools that are at your disposal. Even the New York Times reported or admitted that Democrats have little to fight back with on the gerrymandering front because they have gerrymandered their states so extensively, Chicago being a great example, Illinois being a great example, which is where they fled, that they can't actually do anything to compete against this. So I would just say that this is once again a bit of a tantrum, and the people who they represent should require them to be in their state to do their jobs.
Yeah, speaking of Illinois, the governor, J.B. Pritzker, never seizing an opportunity, or not seizing an opportunity.
Like I said, you can't be outraged left or right, one way or the other, if you aren't holding the House Republicans to the same standard. These guys get paid, and I don't understand why. They know they have a job to do, and they get all these votes, and they don't pass these bills, but at the end of the year, or every 6 months, they have to pass this big fucking beautiful bill, big omnibus bill, big whatever the fuck they want to call it bill, when they should do single issue voting, but they don't do that. Because why? Because they're too busy fucking not doing their jobs. They're too busy taking a 1 month vacation every fucking few weeks, every few months. And then they're fucking in committees arguing like fucking children. And not debating anything.
A political standoff in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott has given Democratic lawmakers here until 3 p.m. local time, that's 4 p.m. Eastern, today, to get back to the state, or he will kick them out of office. They fled to Illinois to prevent a vote on a controversial redistricting plan. Texas Minority Leader Jean Wu is standing by that decision, calling the plan, quote, racist.
The tool they're using is a racist gerrymandered map. A map that seeks to use racial lines to divide hard-working communities who have spent decades building up their power. And
what do you mean by racial lines? Shouldn't it be by where they live and not by the color of the people there? What is the population of black people?
Strengthening their voices. And Governor Abbott is doing this in submission to Donald Trump.
All right, we've got CBS News political reporter Hunter Woodall joining us from Washington with more on this. Good morning, Hunter. You know, we've seen these types of tactics before, not just from Democrats, but Republicans too. So why are Democrats in Texas doing this now, and what is the risk?
Good morning, Errol. What you're seeing from Texas Democrats here is a little bit of a byproduct of voters clearly, after these 2024 election losses for Democrats, they've been saying they want to see Democrats fight back. This is one of those 13%. Avenues. Now, you know, this might just simply delay the inevitable in Texas, or it may actually have an impact as more and more attention goes around to this redistricting push. Now, it's important to remember, in Texas, if Republicans are successful in the push that they are currently undertaking, this could cause 5 Democratic congressional seats to be redrawn in a way that favors Republicans. This would be a major impact on the 2026 midterm because right now, House Republicans only essentially have a 3-seat majority. And that's why this push is having so many national implications, because what happens in Texas could also have downstream effects around the whole country.
Right. It's all about if Democrats will be able to gain some power in the House come midterms. But Hunter, California Governor Gavin Newsom is likely to ask legislators there to start redrawing states' district maps in response to what's happening in Texas. So how could this impact the larger national picture?
Well, Errol, that's exactly right. You know, California Governor Gavin Newsom, he's clearly going to push California Democrats to redraw that state's maps. Now, I want to emphasize this heavily. California Democrats face a much larger hurdle to actually get that done in California compared to what Republicans are doing in Texas. In Texas, Republicans are just going to likely have to go through the legislature, get the governor to sign off on those plans. In California, it actually is likely going to take a constitutional amendment, one that has to pass both chambers in the California legislature, and then also be put in front of voters in an upcoming election ahead of the 2026 midterms to even change those maps. So California can, you know, essentially has a route to do this, but it's going to take some work.
All right, Hunter Woodall from our D.C. Bureau with the latest on this. Hunter, thank you.
A press conference was held in Cincinnati about the brawl where white people were beaten to near death.
Our investigative teams have identified 6 victims, 5 males,
listen to this shit,
1 female, each subjected to unimaginable physical violence.
Let's remember the use of the phrasing victims there as we move forward.
We are a proudly diverse city with a large and vibrant black community that is rich in tradition and in history.
Oh, tradition.
The racial dynamics of this fight are unavoidable, and some have cynically used the opportunity to try and divide us along racial lines.
Let's now remember the idea that people are trying to divide along racial lines as we listen to what this local pastor had to say.
Let me address briefly the racializing and politicizing of this event that happened this past weekend. We would not be here, and this would not be national news. This would not be national news. This was a group of black people that jumped on other black people.
Oh, Christ.
It would not be national news if it happened in Montgomery Inn and somebody beat down 2 elderly white people. But obviously it's national news because it's been racialized. So let's walk back. For those who want to racialize this, it was a fight that took place. It was a black man and a white man, one-on-one. They were facing each other, and no punches were thrown. A kick was tried that didn't land. And for those who want to racialize it, then a black man stepped in between the combatants, separated them, and said, "This is enough, stop fighting, everybody needs to chill." And then for those who want to racialize it, the white man then steps back in the ring and slaps not the black man that he had just squared up with, but slaps another black man. So after that, he was met with disproportionate force.
Maybe he couldn't tell the difference.
For those who want to politicize it, the J.D. Vances and the Vivek Ramaswamys and the Bernie Marinos and the Christopher Smithermans and many others who want to politicize it, they have not yet said something that I always hear.
What?
When a black person, say, runs from the police and then is met with disproportionate force, sometimes ending their life, what we hear is, well, why did they run? Why didn't they just comply? We hear that every time. But I've yet to hear anybody say, why didn't he just walk?
Talking about police interactions, not random people against random people. That comparison's a little bit different.
Away. So let me back up so you understand this. Two combatants, one black, one white. A black man steps in, breaks it up. The white guy re-engages, slaps, not the black man that he had just squared up with, but slaps another black man. And nobody's asking, why didn't he just walk away? And so when I see, and I don't know who else the chief is looking for or CPD is looking for, but when I see the mugshots, I only see people who look like me.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't see the person who re-engaged, slapped, not the... I don't see the person.
Look at him. Look in the back left. He's so proud of himself.
Person who re-engaged, slapped not the initial person, but slapped another black man. So I don't see the slapper's mugshot. And so sadly, I have to agree. This is racial because it is unequal justice. And so until we see all the mugshots, this is still a racial issue.
Wow, something tells me he went a bit rogue there. So we've established the people as victims, and then later called for at least one of their arrests in the press conference. This seems to align right in with what a city council member had to say about this.
Cincinnati Councilwoman Victoria Parks appeared to blame the victims, commenting on a Facebook video, quote, "They begged for that beatdown. I am grateful for the whole story."
The controversial two sentences started circulating early Wednesday. I reached out to Parks' office and was told she was on vacation. She later confirmed to WOWT that she stands by the post.
But amidst all this craziness, you may be pleasantly surprised to hear this.
Our officers risk their life daily to remove violent offenders from the streets, only to see them released quickly and sometimes without consequences. This cycle must end.
Whoa. Does she kind of go rogue at the end? Still, she's a piece of shit. She's a DEI hire, and she often reprimanded only white male officers. That's why she's got a bunch of lawsuits up against her. I mean, hypothetically. Because remember, YouTube, everything I say is basically satire. Satire. Right? That's my disclaimer. I forgot to say it again. Now we're going to talk about grifting. Not in the sense that you guys think I'm going to talk about grifting. Jesus Christ, where do you think you're at right now? We're going to start with, well, I don't know why. I just randomly picked two videos, and they just happen to be from the same channel. And I really fucking dislike Lindsey Graham. I think he's a piece of shit rhino who definitely is not America first, and he's one of the main reasons we maintain our spot in combat situations.
Lindsey Olin Graham was born July 9, 1955 in Seneca, South Carolina, to a family of very humble origins. His parents owned a pool hall, bar, and liquor store in central South Carolina where he grew up. He graduated from D.W. Daniel High School and enrolled in the University of South Carolina in Columbia. He was the first person in his family to have attended college, but while he was a student, both of his parents, Millie and Florence, died some 15 months apart. Graham was left to raise his sister, Darlene Graham, who was 9 years younger, and he eventually became her legal guardian while tackling his demanding studies. Graham earned a BA in 1977 while a member of the U.S. Air Force ROTC, and later earned his JD in 1981 from the University of South Carolina. After graduating, he entered the Air Force, becoming a military lawyer in the Judge Advocate General's office. He served at the Rhein-Main Air Force Base in Germany from 1984 to 1988. After leaving active duty, Graham returned to South Carolina and became an Oconee County Assistant County Attorney from 1988 to 1992, and later City Attorney from 1990 to 1994
Okay.
in Central. He also joined the South Carolina Air National Guard, serving from 1989 to 1995, and returned to active duty during the Persian Gulf War in 1990 to 91, and still served in the Air Force Reserves, retiring at the rank of colonel
What they
after
don't
more
tell
than
you is they
33
show
years of
all
service.
these really cool combat situations that Air Force would be in. Except for he was a lawyer. He did none of that.
In 2015. He also served in Iraq and Afghanistan at various times. In 2014, Graham received a Bronze Star Medal for meritorious service as a senior legal advisor to the Air Force in Iraq and Afghanistan from August 2000.
He didn't get the Bronze Star because what he did. He got a Bronze Star because he was a fucking colonel. Major or captains and above. First lieutenants and above all got Bronze Stars. Like a participation trophy.
2009 to July 2014, overseeing the detention of military prisoners. Graham worked as a lawyer in private practice until he was elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives, serving a single term from 1992 to 1994. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, being the first Republican elected from South Carolina's 3rd Congressional District since Reconstruction. Graham served 4 terms in the United States House of Representatives from 1995 to 2003 until he won the U.S. Senate seat vacated by retiring Republican incumbent Strom Thurmond. He was reelected to a 4th term
Why was
in 2020.
Thurmond's picture black and white?
Graham supported a strong military and was publicly hawkish on foreign policy, while moderate on domestic issues and opposed to enhanced interrogation, such as waterboarding of terrorist
Because he's a
suspects.
fucking lawyer.
Despite his public platform, he voted no on $15.2 billion for foreign operations in November 1999.
Oh.
But Graham was never consistent in his positions or his support for fellow Republicans, whom he often opposed on several issues. Many Republicans felt betrayed when he previously voted to confirm both of President Obama's Supreme Court nominees, Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, knowing their liberal leanings. He often flip-flopped, changed his mind, depending upon the political climate, such as when Graham later voted against Merrick Garland along with Mitch McConnell during the election year nomination by Obama. Here are a few examples of his flip-flopping. Despite his public position on being hard on terrorism, Graham voted no on restricting business with entities linked to terrorism in July 2005 because that big business was a big donor to his campaigns. Graham voted to build the border wall in 2007, was publicly anti-illegal immigration, but he voted yes on allowing illegal aliens to participate in Social Security in May 2006 at the expense of American citizens. Graham has always publicly supported the military, the troops, and making the VA better, improving education assistance for veterans, claiming to be their champion. But in April 2008, he voted to cut $221 million in disability and educational benefits that Filipinos had earned serving in the U.S. Army during World War II. In June 2010, Graham told reporters that the science about global warming had changed and that the movement...
So that makes it even worse. Lindsey Graham is racist against Filipinos. Got it.
...had taken a giant step backward. In a major flip-flop, he also said that he planned to vote against the same climate bill he had originally co-sponsored. This shocked a few fellow Republicans, but the campaign money flowed in. Between 2010 and 2014, the Thornton law firm and its partners engaged in practices to reimburse political contributions, raising suspicions about campaign donation habits not scrutinized by the Federal Elections Commission or Congress. In 2012, Graham, a hawk on Benghazi, said that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton got away with murder after her testimony about the 2012 Benghazi attack. He publicly wanted her held accountable for the tragedy, which occurred on her watch. But for some reason, he changed his mind the following year, stating the House report on the event was full of crap, thus again shocking Republicans.
Oh, okay.
As the evidence of Clinton's wrongdoing was very clear. And please see our video on Benghazi. Again, money flowed in from the Thornton law firm and other sources who contributed to both party candidates, but predominantly Democrats. Also, in June 2012, although Graham signed Grover Norquist's Taxpayer Protection Pledge, he went on the record supporting the closure of tax loopholes without compensating decreases in other tax revenue, saying, "We're so far in debt that if you don't give up some ideological ground, the country sinks." He has currently changed that position again.
He
He
sure
also
has.
voted against raising the debt limit. Later in 2013, in response to disclosures about the United States National Security Agency's global surveillance program, Graham said he was glad the NSA was collecting phone records on unsuspecting Americans without their consent.
Huh. A Republican that's okay with spying on American people. It's crazy. Almost like when the Democrats have the FBI monitor all conservatives.
Ironically, he had previously voted yes on extending the Patriot Act's roving unrestricted wiretaps in February.
There it is. You hear that? He voted to extend it. He had voted to extend spying on you, taking away freedoms for, for his false sense of security. That's all it is. You take away freedoms and say, you know what? We're just going to take them away for now. And then once we get this shit fixed, we'll give it right back. But nothing ever gets fixed.
2011, but he had previously been a strong supporter of protecting American citizens' privacy, and he had no problem with Verizon turning over records to the government without a warrant to match terrorist phones. He had previously been opposed to government interloping into the privacy of American citizens in violation of the Constitution, but he had voted on requiring FISA court warrants to monitor U.S. to foreign calls in February 2008.
I'm sorry. Patriot Act, all about it. FISA courts, he's all about it. But he's about protecting your constitutional freedoms.
And in 2013, Graham voted to cut spending and raise the debt ceiling, opposite his position the year before. In March 2015, Graham supported the Saudi Arabia-led intervention in Yemen, saying, "We want to have a relationship with Saudi Arabia. They're a strategic partner. They're a mortal enemy."
So what you're saying is, Lindsay, you want war. This is like one of the first instances? Okay. Lindsay, let me let this play out. Let me let this play out. Maybe I misunderstood this. Because Democrats or Republicans don't really want war, or do they?
Of the Iranians. But he again changed his position, flip-flopping when in June 2019 he was one of 7 Republicans to vote to block President Trump's Saudi arms deal providing weapons to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Jordan, and was one of 5 Republicans to vote against an additional 20 arms sales to anti-Iranian regimes. It was an election year after all. Graham accepted the Supreme Court ruling to allow gay marriage in June 2015, reversing his previous position on the Defense of Marriage Act, stipulating marriage was only.
See, that's one of the things I don't really feel. How do I say this? Gay people can get married. I firmly believe it. If they want to be a homosexual or a lesbian and they want to marry a member of the same sex, go ahead. Don't give two shits. But remember, you should keep it all in the house. When you come outside the doors, then, I don't know. I don't really think that. I just think it's, if you want to marry a woman, go ahead. If you want to marry a man, go ahead. And if you're a member of the same sex, I don't care. But don't make it your whole existence. Like, oh, hi, I'm Bill. Meet my partner. Or, hi, I'm Barack. Meet my partner. Hi, I'm Big Mike.
Only between a man and a woman in 2006. This was when Graham voted to raise taxes to pay down the national debt, raise the debt limit, but he did not push reducing federal expenditures to offset the debt.
Oh, sound
In July
familiar?
2015, Graham, then running for president, called Donald Trump a jackass for his comments about John McCain. Trump
And Lindsay, pretty much, this goes back with the grifting. He's like, fuck, who used to flip flop? Well, I guess you can say he's the LeBron James of the Senate, or yeah, he's in the Senate.
retaliated by calling Graham an idiot and revealing Graham's personal cell phone number at a rally. This would begin a strange love-hate relationship. In December 2015, Graham strongly criticized Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the United States, calling him a race-baiting, xenophobic religious bigot. But later, Graham would change his mind and support a stronger vetting process for persons entering the U.S. from certain Muslim countries. Go figure. On December 21, 2015, Graham suspended his own presidential campaign due to the lack of support and poor polling, and on January 15, 2016, he endorsed former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. After it appeared certain that Donald Trump would become the Republican nominee in May 2016, Graham announced that he would not vote for Trump or Hillary Clinton, stating, "I think Donald Trump is going to places where very few people have gone, and I'm not going with him." In May 2016, Graham tweeted that nominating Donald Trump would lead to the destruction of the Republican Party, and they would deserve it. In June 2016, Graham criticized Donald Trump's remarks about a judge of Mexican heritage, stating he was playing the race card and that it was very un-American. On November 8, 2016, Graham announced that he had voted for Evan McMullin. Graham also suggested that people should reconsider the future of the Republican Party if Trump continued
I'm
this.
like, it's such a nice and cooling day. I'm gonna leave the fucking window open. I totally forget these fucking trash trucks come through Monday. Not mine, but they're loud as fucking shit.
Line of attack.
Sorry.
Throughout, consider the
Fuck Lindsey
future of
Graham.
the Republican Party if Trump continued this line of attack. Throughout the 2016 election cycle and the early days of the Trump administration, Graham served as a bitter foe of Trump, frequently harping on his gripes with Trump's temperament. In 2016, after Justice Antonin Scalia's death, Graham stated that Supreme Court vacancies should never be filled in a presidential election year. He also stated that Republicans were setting a precedent. Now, here's another twist. In 2016, it was reported that Graham was the only Republican recipient of money from the aforesaid Thornton law firm, which was ironically one of the major Democratic donors. The firm had been facing scrutiny for questionable campaign donation habits in violation of federal election laws. A spokesman for Graham said that Graham would return the money he received from the firm's lawyers if the law firm were indicted or convicted on corruption charges, but only then, despite the terrible optics, he wanted the money. In March 2017, Lindsey Graham voted for the Broadband Consumer Privacy Proposal that removed the Federal Communication Commission's internet privacy rules and allowed internet service providers to sell customers' browsing history without their permission. It was said he was personally compensated by those media groups substantially. In November 2017, Graham, who had repeatedly attacked
I wonder how much money he got from that.
Trump on both a political and personal level, criticized the media's reporting on Donald Trump, stating that the American press was endlessly trying to label Trump as unfit for president using slander and unproven innuendo. But why the change? In January 2018, Lindsey Graham and Chuck Grassley recommended charges against ex-MI6 officer Christopher Steele, the author of the Steele dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, for allegedly lying to federal authorities during the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, although Graham changed his mind of charging Hillary Clinton and the Democrats in the conspiracy. Again, the money came in. In August 2018, the Washington Post reported that Graham had stated he had never heard Donald Trump make a single racist statement, which is true, which was supported by many others from both parties and even black celebrities who had been longtime friends of Trump. In October 2018, Graham stated that if a Supreme Court opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term and the primary process has started, the Senate will wait until the next election to fill it. On March 14, 2019, Graham blocked a resolution calling for independent counsel Robert Mueller's report to be made public after it passed the House unanimously. This was a strange move because Graham had previously supported Mueller's protection from being dismissed, allowing him to continue his investigation. Now, as far as Lindsey Graham suddenly becoming friends with Trump, think about this. In the Mueller report, Trump was not found liable for any criminal activity, but Graham rejected that information from being released, which would only have hurt Trump in the 2020 election. Had that information been made public, Trump would have looked very good to voters. On May 14, 2019, Lindsey Graham faced scrutiny for encouraging Donald Trump Jr. to ignore a subpoena from the Senate Intelligence Committee, which drew criticism from Democrats, including West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin.
He's not a
But
Democrat
he pushed
anymore.
for legal action against Democrats who also ignored subpoenas, but not during the Obama administration. In late 2019, Graham then again changed his mind on his previous position on Trump's deals, giving a softer approach towards Saudi Arabia. He praised the Trump administration for sending thousands of additional troops to Saudi Arabia to counter Iran's threat. He also praised
Again, pro-war. And I really get pissed off because, oh, he did up to 35 years combined in the United States military. He was a fucking lawyer with only 4 years active time total. The rest was reserved.
Saudi Arabia for opening its airspace to Israeli flights and eased up on the weapons deal. Remember, he was still running for re-election. In November 2019, Graham confused most in his party when he initially blocked a Senate resolution aimed at officially recognizing the Armenian genocide. There were rumors that he had been in contact with Turkish officials and unproven allegations of contribution made to his campaign fund, and please see our video on the Armenian genocide. On May 2020, Graham said the Senate would work to confirm a Supreme Court nominee if a vacancy arose before the November election, differentiating it from the Merrick Garland situation where he had opposed seating a new justice during an election year, again changing his mind. In September 2020, following the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Lindsey Graham expressed support for the Senate immediately voting on Trump's
they
nominee,
fucking ate him
reversing
alive for
his
that.
earlier stance yet again. He said that he had had a
Yeah,
political
piece of shit.
marriage with John McCain, but as for his relationship with Trump, he said, "I personally like him. We play golf. He's very nice to me." Graham also said that a good relationship with Trump would help his prospects of re-election to the Senate in 2020 because Trump was popular. Once again, he altered his position and opinion based upon political wins. During the 2020 presidential election recount in Georgia, which was quite controversial, Lindsey Graham privately called Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to discuss vote counting and questioning the possibility of disqualifying mail-in ballots with signature errors and no postmarks. Biden won Georgia by fewer than 12,000 votes after the questionable events followed: the fake water line break to dismiss staff, all except Democrats, and the thousands of verified ballots brought in after midnight. Raffensperger viewed this as a suggestion to discard legally cast ballots, which Graham denied that Trump was defeated by Joe Biden and Trump refused to concede, alleging voter fraud, despite the liberal media claiming that there was a lack of evidence to support the claim. And
Except for
please see
there
our
is
video
evidence.
on the election fraud. Following the projection that Joe Biden won the 2020 United States presidential election within just a few hours of thousands of drop box and questionable mail-in ballots being suddenly found, Graham urged Donald Trump not to concede, and he donated $500,000 to Trump's election lawsuits and suggested Republican state legislators invalidate election results due to the possible fraud and appointing presidential electors who would vote for Trump. On January 6, 2021, Graham and other members of Congress met to certify Biden's victory. Their proceeding, however, was temporarily halted when Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, invited by Capitol Police and
Trump supporters, but with government actors stoking the flames.
Set up by Democrats. After several hours when Congress reconvened, Graham was among those who accused President Trump of inciting the attack,
Oh,
thus
yeah?
showing his true colors. Graham, for some reason, suddenly acknowledged that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were lawfully elected. This was a shift from his previous position where he pointed to verifiable evidence of illegal voting activities and fraudulent processes in several
So that it
states.
didn't exist.
Biden was ultimately certified as the winner. The following week, the House of Representatives impeached Trump, charging him with incitement of insurrection. The Senate trial was held after Trump left office, and Graham then changed his mind and voted to acquit the former president. So Trump was not convicted. Also in 2020, Graham, a well-known hawk on abortion restrictions, suddenly became one of 13 Republican senators who declined to sign an amicus brief asking the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, again changing his position. In August 2021, the New York Times reported that Lindsey Graham called Joe Biden after the election to revive their friendship and claimed that his call for a special counsel investigation of Biden's son, Hunter, during the campaign was only to appease Trump supporters. However, a Graham spokesman disputed the
Like a
Times'
snake.
account, so both episodes cannot be true. On March 3, 2022, in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Lindsey Graham tweeted suggesting that someone in Russia should assassinate Vladimir Putin, drawing backlash from other American politicians from both parties and shocking Republicans. Previously, Biden had opposed assassinations of foreign leaders. In May 2022, Lindsey Graham again changed his mind, joining Trump and advocating that the Supreme Court should overturn Roe v. Wade as a federal law to ensure that every state will decide if abortion is legal and on what terms. That was the position Trump had all along that Graham had previously attacked vigorously. Also in 2022, Graham became one of 10 Republican senators to support a bipartisan agreement on gun control, which included the controversial and ambiguous red flag provision. The red flag law is a direct violation of the Second Amendment, which
You mean the
Graham
one
hypocritically
Dan
always
Crenshaw
claimed
also
he
voted
totally
for?
supported because it allowed for the confiscation of a citizen's weapons without any criminal procedure, just an anonymous tip would do, with an unproven accusation that someone was so-called dangerous. In March 2004, Graham had voted no in preventing lawsuits against gun manufacturers. Then he voted to allow such actions, but in 2005 he flip-flopped back and voted to prohibit those lawsuits. On February 13, 2024, Graham voted against Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan appropriations bill due to the inclusion of border control efforts. He later changed his mind again and joined 79 colleagues in passing the appropriations when they were packaged as one bill in April, without anything included to secure the border. But then Lindsey Graham, being Lindsey Graham, changed his mind once again on a couple of other issues. Graham's votes against the defense bill had exasperated colleagues, given that Graham led a charge on the Senate floor in June to delay action on a deal to raise the debt limit and set caps on defense and non-defense spending because it didn't include any money for Ukraine, which, by the way, he previously opposed. He stated, "To the brave
How
men
many
and women
times
in
did he go to
Ukraine
Ukraine?
standing up against Russian aggression and in defense of their homeland, help is on the way." In May 2024, he reversed himself yet again when asked whether he would accept the results of the presidential election. Graham said he would if there's no massive cheating. Before, he had stated there was no cheating in 2020 after supporting the investigation into cheating. The bill Graham opposed included $60 billion for Ukraine, including $19.85 billion to replenish U.S. military weapons provided from the Pentagon's inventory and $13.8 billion to enable Ukraine to purchase weapons and munitions from U.S. industries. But then Graham again changed his mind, and he was not alone. Many congressional Republicans and senators supported the Ukraine package. But then there was the release of a questionable report listing politicians of both parties who had received kickbacks from Ukraine
Fuck
through
yeah.
USAID, which was only possible if the Senate passed the spending bill, which Graham had always opposed. Interesting, no? In April 2024, Trump expressed regret for endorsing Graham in his 2020 Senate campaign after Graham had again changed his mind on Roe v. Wade, and he criticized Trump for not supporting a federal abortion ban. Trump had always supported leaving that issue to the states under the 10th Amendment. Graham finally changed his mind yet again and formally agreed.
Yeah, because he wanted to
In
be
January
reelected.
2025, Graham disagreed with several of Donald Trump's initial actions as president, including pardoning the January 6 defendants, removing security details for former officials, stripping former officials of the security clearances, and the manner of firing inspectors general. Graham had stated previously that Trump could be prosecuted for inciting the January 6 protest, but then he stated that Trump was within his right to challenge the election results, which Hillary Clinton also did, and he also opposed the second impeachment of Trump on that issue. But these are simply political issues. Now, let's look at the money.
Let's do it.
The amount that Big Pharma spent in 2020 alone in local and state elections, as well as bribing Congress to keep our healthcare system, drug pricing, and policies in place, was $689,466,798. The health
A lot of
insurance
money.
industry took home $19 billion in profits. Hospitals took in over $70 billion in profits, and the pharmaceutical industry made similar huge profits with at least $100 million in reported profits. During 2019 and 2020, Graham was a recipient of $367,279 in Big Pharma donations for his reelection, along with at least $4 million more which came from so-called dark money groups, which can funnel money into political systems without disclosing their donors. He voted yes on negotiating bulk purchases for Medicare prescription drugs in March 2005, which Big Pharma liked. But Graham took money and then voted no on increasing Medicaid rebates for producing less expensive generic drugs in November 2005, which greatly benefited Big Pharma, stopping cheaper generics from being made available, increasing their massive profits as well as their political donations. He later voted no on requiring negotiated prescription prices for Medicare Part D in April 2007, which kept prices high and again benefited Big Pharma. As of 2025, Lindsey Graham's net worth was about $5 million. Not bad on a public servant salary, even with military retirement, considering that he
That's
could
not that
not be
much.
paid a military retirement salary while sitting in Congress. And he's been there a long time. Graham seemed to have no problem with the fact that these three industries, deeply involved in keeping our healthcare system as broken and dysfunctional as possible, had handed out billions in compensation to their senior executives and board members, not to mention stockholder dividends, with some members of Congress owning shares as stockholders.
That's fucking nuts.
Graham did not even
That's how a
seriously
lot of them
address the
got
drug
fucking rich
pricing
during COVID.
conspiracy, as most of the more expensive drugs cost as little as a tenth in other nations when compared to U.S. prices, and everybody in the other developed nations have health coverage. Remember, he still received Big Pharma money.
Yeah, fucking Ukrainian flag.
Jewish conservatives heavily contributed to Graham's campaigns. Graham has visited.
Look at this cuck. Look at this motherfucking cuck right here. Look at the shit-eating grin on his face. Like, I'm about to get paid. I'm about to get paid. He probably bent over and got some fucking Jewish dick after this.
Visited Israel at least a dozen times in recent years and consistently backed pro-Israel policies, making him one of the Jewish state's most loyal friends in Congress. That has led to big donations from wealthy Jewish activists. Last year, developer Larry Mizzle donated $100,000 to West Main Street Values, a so-called super PAC that supports Graham, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. Sam Fox, a businessman and a former ambassador, gave the group $50,000 in 2013, from which Graham benefited. And mega donor Sheldon Adelson has given Graham money over the years, which made the casino magnate a top target for Graham and his moneymakers. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, massive Democrat, had vowed to use his billions to support candidates who seek bipartisan solutions, meaning rhinos, which apparently includes Graham. Bloomberg, an unabashed liberal, gave $250,000 to West Main Street Values last year, making him the single biggest.
Don't forget, Bloomberg was like, you know what? I'm going to run for president. And he's like, I'm a Republican. Retard. I mean, last person to do that. that was a Democrat that ran for president as a Republican won.
Donor to the super PAC. Other high-level Democrat donors also contributed to Graham's various campaigns. But why? Why would they do that? Why would make wealthy Democrats throw money at a Republican? The answer is pretty simple. Graham will vote and support whatever position is popular at the time, rather than stick to a strict moral and ethical standard and represent his constituents. For example, defense contractors supported him, individual donors affiliated with Boeing, Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon donated a combined $50,000 a few
Military
years ago
industrial.
to Fund for America's Future, a so-called leadership PAC Graham uses to fund his political activities. Graham had also formed a super PAC called Security is Strength that had not filed reports on its fundraising activities, but would be a natural outlet for donors who want to support a candidate who favors robust defense spending. Since it's a super PAC, there are no limits on what individual or corporate donors can give. Remember that previously, a few years before, Graham had wanted to place a cap on defense spending, but then he was courted by the lobbyists representing the military-industrial complex, as were many others from both parties, to get those appropriations passed. And he changed his mind. But Graham has been all over the board regarding lobbyists and the money they bring. In July 2001, he voted no on banning soft money donations to national political parties. But in 2002, he voted yes on campaign finance reform, banning soft money contributions. So what does he really believe in?
Money.
Before that, he voted yes on banning soft money and issue ads in September 1999, but 10 years later, in 2009, he voted yes on allowing some lobbyist gifts to Congress. This confusion is understandable, but where the money came from is the question. Notably, he became a proponent of increased legal immigration, which most on both sides agree with. But he also wanted a pathway to citizenship for illegal alien immigrants, which conflicted with most Republicans, with the illegals getting a free pass at the expense of others doing it the right way. Some called him a political sellout. Graham's changing positions and opinions, bringing him closer to Trump, fueled Democrats to unseat him in 2020. However, although his opponent received record-setting donations, Graham ultimately prevailed in November after Trump's endorsement. Although Graham changed his mind and ultimately dismissed claims that the 2020 election was fraudulent, and he encouraged Trump to run for president in 2024, this was no doubt a move by Graham to ride the coattails of a popular Republican
Look at
the
him in the
wake of a
background.
disastrous Democrat administration. And Graham will want to run for re-election in 2026. Let's hope like hell that term limits are imposed by that time and retroactively
Shit, those are
processed.
never going to happen, as much as we want
Lindsey
to.
Graham has shown that he will bend his political leanings if they benefit himself, making him a clear example of a politician who is self-serving rather than serving the public. Not a statesman. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten.
And he's one of many that are being used as a puppet. And unfortunately, I haven't found one yet on Mitch, but I'll find one. Not Mitch, Mitch McConnell. But if you're here, I'm pretty sure you already knew that, so I don't know why I'm repeating myself. Dog just kicked me. I like how he throws around the 35-year combat veteran. But then I'll tell you what his job was. He was a lawyer. A lawyer for the military. Now, a lawyer in the military really doesn't do shit. No shit. Until they're really, really needed for something important like court-martials. And they said he had over 30 trips. 30 trips to the Middle East. Which lets me know he was never there for more than a month. What he was doing, he would go over there for a day or 3 to get that month tax-free. And then come back. And then go back again the next month for a couple days and get that month tax-free. So he could go there 2 days, come back, wait a month, go there 2 days, come back, and he doesn't pay the taxes for that month. One of those guys.
To some, he's a modern-day George Washington to his nation. To others, he's just another Eastern European leader entangled in controversy. Many people believe that he is deeply involved in corruption. Regardless of one's beliefs, his journey from comedian to president has been extraordinary, and opinions on his leadership and ethics are as polarized as ever. Volodymyr Zelensky's presidency is a labyrinth of war, politics, corruption, and controversy. Accusations of embezzlement by his political and military associates, as well as himself, have spanned the spectrum. So let's look at the man behind the Ukrainian resistance to Russia, his platform, policies, and relationship with the West, and the corruption accusations that have been made against him. Who is Volodymyr Zelensky? How did he come to power? Why is he controversial? How bad is the damage done by his administration due to corruption?
Ukraine's always been corrupt.
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Wait, why do you have a Ukrainian flag right there?
Volodymyr Zelensky, a former actor and comedian, threw his hat in the ring and ran for the presidency of Ukraine when he announced his candidacy on New Year's Eve 2018. To many, it was considered a publicity stunt. Zelensky was thereafter elected to a 5-year term in 2019. But due to his public display of disillusionment with Ukraine's history of corruption among the political elite, his outsider image and anti-corruption message resonated, and in April 2019, he received 73% of the vote.
Wait, this motherfucker ran on anti-corruption? What the fuck?
In a historical landslide in Ukraine. But then Zelensky went after other likely future rivals, such as former President Petro Poroshenko, who was accused of using his position for personal gain, has been entangled in numerous legal battles, although there has not been any real evidence presented. Poroshenko had appointed financiers to run the national bank, tasked with cleaning up the banking system. Poroshenko also created the National Anti-Corruption Bureau that was tasked to investigate crimes by the nation's top officials, both former and current presidents, prosecutors, judges, ministers, and governors. This investigation included companies doing business in violation of Ukrainian and international law, such as Burisma, which is tied to the Biden crime family, where exorbitant payments were sent to the Bidens in order to gain influence while Joe Biden was vice president. Zelensky saw this as an opportunity, and he campaigned on cleaning up government and targeted political rivals, especially Poroshenko, which challenged his Western allies' support as they have warned against political score settling, cautioning that Ukraine must uphold democratic integrity. The first prosecutor general to be appointed by Zelensky, Ruslan Ryabashapka, was fired by Zelensky in March 2020 for his refusal to sign off on charges against Poroshenko, which he called legal trash. Zelensky being labeled as a tyrannical dictator may have some merit. Attempts to prosecute Poroshenko, for which there is no evidence of corruption, have stirred the belief of corruption by Zelensky's actions. The U.S. Embassy posted a statement warning that justice system should not be used for the purpose of settling political scores. Stephen Pfeiffer, the former
U.S. said that?
U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, also pointed to the political witch hunts as corruption, while Roman Washuk, the former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine, agreed that Zelensky was purging political rivals without cause. A survey by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, which included interviews with over 13,000 people, including internally and externally displaced Ukrainians, said that 77% of those surveyed said that next to the war, corruption was the country's most serious problem. Zelensky wanted Ukraine to join the European Union, but due to the history of corruption in that country, that would be unlikely for some time. His other request was to be admitted into NATO, which was more of a possibility, but there were problems. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin was already...
The UN said, fuck off. But NATO was like, well, hey, America, would you help us if we decided to, fight Russia? Yeah, sure. What's in it for me? Money. Billions and trillions of dollars. Hell yeah.
Quite upset that the Baltic states and Eastern European nations had requested to join NATO in violation of an agreement that NATO would not extend eastward, which he deemed a threat to Russia. In 2014, Russian forces had attacked and captured the Crimean Peninsula without any serious American protest by President Barack Obama, and after the election of Joseph Biden in 2020, the disastrous evacuation of Afghanistan, and the Biden administration's feckless and absent positions on most world affairs, Putin saw his opportunity. But it was Ukraine submitting and being considered for NATO membership, as well as the ethnic Russians living in the Don Basin and elsewhere, that gave Putin his perceived justification to invade Ukraine, starting the war on February 24, 2022. After Russia invaded, the polls came out, and Zelensky launched a very public investigation into bribery related to military recruitment. Whoa. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Parliamentary Anti-Corruption Policy
Bribery
Committee
going to the military recruitment to all males must fight.
Has identified problems in a new bill on conscription that could give rise to corruption risks after Zelensky announced on December 19, 2022, the likely mobilization of 500,000 recruits. Zelensky would have been due for re-election in the spring of 2024, but on February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded, Zelensky imposed martial law, and that invoked Ukrainian law, which prohibits elections during martial law. This has been the policy since Russia's invasion. Despite the legal justification, critics argue that Ukraine...
Weird. Imagine if we did that here. Think about it. George Bush would have been president for 20 plus years. Jesus fucking Christ, we'd be fucked.
Must demonstrate democratic resilience and allow elections even in wartime. And there are supporters as well as opponents of this fact. Lee Rini and Joel Wasserman, who are based in Ukraine, wrote for Foreign Policy in July 2023 stating, "This can be expected from a country fighting for its very existence, where significant portions of its territory are occupied. Martial law is established as a concept in the Ukrainian constitution and last updated by the national legislature in 2015 before Zelensky entered politics. Article 19 of Ukraine's martial law before Zelensky entered politics, updated by the national legislature in 2015 before Zelensky entered politics."
Right? And you know, these people, even when I slow it down, they're just, you know, oh, we're not going to run, we're just going to continue walking. See?
Article 19 of Ukraine's martial law legislation specifically forbids conducting national elections. Thus, for Ukraine to conduct elections while under martial law would be a violation of legal norms that predate Zelensky and the full-scale Russian invasion. Critics also accurately state that during World War II, the USA and Great Britain still held elections, while Germany, Italy, and Japan did not, as they were dictatorships, putting Zelensky in the latter category, as he could have Ukrainian parliament vote to change the law. A second survey by Interfax Ukraine, a Ukrainian news agency, in conjunction with the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, which was carried out for the Ilko Kucherev Democratic Initiatives Foundation think tank, saw 94% of Ukrainians believing Zelensky was corrupt.
Oh, shit.
After this survey was released, Zelensky dismissed all the heads of Ukraine's regional military committees in what was perceived as political damage control.
Wait. In the middle of a war? That's a strange thing to do.
Zelensky's public anti-corruption drive has seen high-profile officials removed or investigated. Defense Minister Rustem Umerov revealed an audit uncovering $262 million in military procurement corruption. In August 2023, Zelensky dismissed all the heads of the regional military recruitment centers after reports surfaced of bribery schemes helping people avoid the draft.
Bro, why? This is supposed to be the Ukrainians that are getting in trouble for embezzlement, right? All that's American money.
One accusation was that all well-to-do Ukrainians had to do was pay off officials to not join the military, and many of them fled.
Are we like literally handing them cash in dollars? Come on.
Ukraine. The defense minister, Alexei Reznikov, has come under criticism after his ministry signed a contract to procure food for the military at inflated prices. Deputy Infrastructure Minister Vasyl Lozinski was arrested for allegedly accepting a bribe of $400,000 when the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office said it exposed and stopped the activities of an organization criminal group involved in the embezzlement of budget funds. Zelensky's replacement defense minister Rustem Umerov, after 4 months in office, said an audit had uncovered corruption connected to the military procurement for another $262 million, for which he blamed his predecessor, Alexei Reznikov, who had resigned. 2 senior officials were dismissed over allegations that the defense ministry had inflated contracts for food supplied to troops, including eggs, and one.
That's normal for governments. Our country does that all the time. Cheapest bidder. Lowest bidder.
One official was arrested on suspicions that he embezzled nearly $40 million in the fraudulent purchase of much-needed artillery shells for Ukraine's military. The problem was the shells were never delivered, and the money was instead sent to various accounts in Ukraine and in the Balkans, investigators said. Ukraine's prosecutor general said that the funds have since been seized and will be returned to the country's defense budget.
Have they?
After all of these actions, another poll, which cited a statement by the think tank's executive director, Petro Burkovsky, reported that 77.6% of surveyed Ukrainians still believed that Zelensky was directly responsible for the corruption despite his firings and bringing charges against those in government. The main question was, where did the money go?
Look, his shit wasn't in dollars. And again, I realize it's probably from when he was.
The main question was.
Maybe it was just when he was acting, but still.
Where did the money go? In an interview with the Associated Press on February 2nd, 2025, Zelensky stated, "When I hear that America gave Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars, 177 to be more precise, as the president of a warring country, I can tell you that we received just over 75. We are talking about specific things because we got it, not with money, but with weapons. There is training, there is additional transport. These are not only prices for weapons. There were humanitarian programs, social, etc. $100 billion of these 177 we never received. When it's said that Ukraine received $200 billion to support the army during the war, that is not true. I don't know where all the money is."
In dollars again.
Zelensky referred to both $177 billion and $200 billion regarding supporting the army, where aid helped all elements of the Ukrainian armed forces, and he appears to include only weapons as aid received. Yet, Outside observers, such as former Polish Deputy Minister Piotr Kolpa, claim that up to 50% of U.S. aid to Ukraine has been embezzled to corrupt Ukrainian officials and U.S. political networks, meaning NGOs, USAID, and even the State Department under the Biden administration and politicians.
Motherfucker. He had a meeting with Joe Biden. Look what he's wearing. This motherfucker's wearing a suit and tie.
Who siphoned off money. According to Kolpa, Ukraine did not get as much American aid as the Biden administration reported, and what it did receive was substantially embezzled. Piotr Kolpa claims Ukrainian authorities, including Zelensky, misappropriated up to half of the financial aid given to Kiev. Kolpa also told Ukrainian journalist Lana Shevchuk that everyone understands that war-related corruption is linked not only with Ukraine but also the supplier nation. Who would ever believe that the U.S. burned through $2 trillion in Afghanistan? It's delusional. Kolpa also accused U.S. aid programs of writing off large sums of money that finance shady systems under Democratic Party control. Kolpa suggested that the Trump administration might analyze government finances and discovered that Ukraine got very little in comparison to publicly declared amounts, and that a large chunk of the funds were stolen from 30% to 50%, regardless of the nature of the aid. Criticizing the massive salaries and bonuses Ukrainian officials pocketed, Kolpa further expressed that if the country could retrieve all the stolen money, it would have sufficient funds for a year. The country could retrieve all the stolen money, it would
This right here is not American money.
Have sufficient funds for a year. Anatol Levin.
So how come all the other ones, they're having fat caches of $100? $100 wads, stacks.
Eurasia Program Director.
Everyone had dollars except for that guy?
At the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft in Washington, D.C., in an interview with Newsweek, asserted that claims of graft and corruption against Zelensky played into deeper Republican criticisms of corruption and the waste of U.S. aid in many other countries around the world. These are being instrumentalized to reduce U.S. aid where, in fact, it would have been honestly used and very useful. Zelensky has been told repeatedly in public and in private that he simply must do something very visible to crack down on corruption to help the Biden administration. He's useful.
Yo, this Abrams tank, it says they cost $14 million. Pretty sure we only pay $8.
Zelensky has been told repeatedly in public and in private that he simply must do something very visible to crack down on corruption to help the Biden administration get its aid package through Congress. Accusations have also been directed at United States lawmakers in both parties who have been fervently supporting U.S. financial and military assistance to Ukraine. These accusations are serious, and listing the following members of Congress as possibly having received kickbacks for their votes to send assistance to Ukraine is noteworthy. Some of those listed actually have had direct influence, if not direct financial interest, in many of these organizations, such as USAID and NGOs handling the money. Those persons on the list, supposedly released by Ukrainian whistleblowers, and which is yet to be verified as factual, include the following lawmakers on both sides of the aisle.
Go figure. There's a list. Always a list.
And in both houses of Congress. Democrats include Joseph Biden, $92 million, Nancy Pelosi, $86 million, Chuck Schumer, $66 million, Adam Schiff, $62 million, Liz Cheney, $77 million, while Republicans on the list include Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell at $89 million, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham at $82 million, former Utah Senator Mitt Romney at $71 million, Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw, $20 million, and Texas Senator John Cornyn at $41 million. Now, This list may grow, and I remind you there is yet no proof as to the correct denominations or even if these politicians received money as a result of the aid. The direct corruption by lawmakers is speculative. That will likely surface after the completed DOJ audit. Those listed as receiving money is incredible if true, and as of yet, this information provided is unverified, but it is under investigation. Elon Musk has proven USAID corruption, supporting the claim that 58% of taxpayer dollars never even reached Ukraine, and much of that did arrive was stolen. While retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, Trump's special advisor to Ukraine, makes a logical claim that most of the money remains in the U.S. for manufacturing and replacing weapons and vehicles that go to Ukraine, and those costs are factored in. Rumors about Zelensky's personal finances have gone viral.
Yeah.
Upon assuming office in May 2019, Zelensky's official salary as president of Ukraine was a modest $770 per month. This placed him firmly below many Western leaders in terms of official compensation. But his personal wealth has come under intense scrutiny. Conservative activists have circulated allegations that he owns a $20 million mansion in Miami or a $48 million yacht, claims that are in dispute. Circulated allegations that he owns a $20 million mansion in Miami
I know it's speculation, but I believe this. Why would he have a $20 million mansion in Miami if, one, he's not even an American citizen, and two, I want to see his visa. Does he have a visa? Does he have a green card? That makes me wonder how we keep from going under.
Or a $48 million yacht, claims that are in dispute. Leaked Pandora papers, which are questionable, revealed that he and his associates held offshore assets linked to media ventures, which is not illegal, but did launch a great debate over whether they contradicted his anti-corruption stance. Now, some of these assets were registered in the British Virgin Islands, Cyprus, and Belize. These companies were linked to media licensing rights and asset management for Kvartal 95's intellectual properties. Zelensky's defenders argue that offshore structures were often used by Ukrainian businesses to protect themselves from political persecution and aggressive asset grabs, which were not uncommon, and there were risk protections for high-profile entrepreneurs in Ukraine's volatile pre-war environment. But it also allowed for massive corruption. Critics questioned Zelensky's purchase of a luxury London apartment valued at $3.8 million in 2016, while supporters argue that his net worth was about $12 million due to his career as an actor and was prior to his becoming president.
$6 million in London?
One particularly interesting asset in Zelensky's portfolio was that luxury apartment in London. But Zelensky claimed the property was intended as an investment linked to his production company's overseas earnings, and the purchase was made before his presidency, which has been verified. In his legally mandated financial disclosures, Zelensky reported ownership of several properties, including a spatial apartment in central Kiev,
Does he actually
additional
stay
residential
in
property in the upmarket Petrich district, and a stake in commercial real estate tied to Kvartal 95's operations. Lauren Witzke, a far-right activist and 2020 Republican Senate nominee for Delaware, recirculated a claim that Zelensky had bought a $20 million mansion in Vero Beach, Florida, as she called for the U.S. to cut off Ukraine from funding. However, Zelensky's name does not appear in the documents for the property ownership, but it is owned by a company to which Zelensky apparently has financial connections.
Oh!
Even Zelensky's wife, Olena Zelenska, has been accused of using a diplomatic trip to France to go on a $40,000 shopping spree in Paris in December 2022. In October 2023, a claim went viral that she spent $1.1 million at the Cartier store in New York while on diplomatic business, which is yet to be verified, but even if true, is not a crime if it's their money. In her defense, Zelenska may have been a target of disinformation, as she was also accused of buying a private island of Pumpkin Key, Florida, worth $95 million, despite the property remaining on the market at the time the claims were made in a Russian TikTok video. According to a 2021 Transparency International report, Ukraine is the second most corrupt country in Europe after Russia and ranks 122nd globally among 180 countries. Ukraine's anti-corruption operation, which targeted several high-profile figures and uncovered luxury watches, homes, cars, and thousands of dollars in cash, is noteworthy. Ukraine's anti-corruption drive included the arrest in September 2023 of billionaire Ihor Kolomoisky, who was considered by Zelensky's opponents to be his key backer for the presidential election campaign of 2019. Kolomoisky's home in the southeastern city of Dnipro was raided in February 2023 in a separate investigation into embezzlement and tax evasion, as he was alleged to have transferred $14 million abroad over 7 years using banks he controlled, but Zelensky did the same thing with his business partners. But critics say all of this is just a smokescreen providing Zelensky cover for his own corruption, like American Democrats accusing Republicans of actions that they themselves have been doing for years. A few have accused Zelensky of not wanting a ceasefire or a peace deal because that would stop the money from coming in. One critic is Alexei Arestovich, a former top advisor to Zelensky, who has indicted his former boss. In a recent interview, Arestovich made the astonishing claim that he trusts Russian President Vladimir Putin more than his former boss Zelensky. This statement sent shockwaves around the world and raises fundamental questions about the credibility and integrity of the Ukrainian government. According to Arestovich, who served as Zelensky's advisor from 2020 to 2022, quote, Zelensky's leadership has been marked by corruption, incompetence, and a callous disregard for the welfare of the Ukrainian people.
Leadership and incompetence.
The Ukrainian president is more concerned with maintaining his own power and privilege than with serving the interest of his country. As conservative commentator Tucker Carlson has noted, the Ukrainian government is corrupt and incompetent, and it's no wonder that Arestovich has lost faith in Zelensky's leadership. Arestovich's comments are particularly significant given his former position of influence within the Zelensky administration. As a top advisor, he had access to sensitive information and was privy to the inner workings of the Ukrainian government. His claims of corruption and incompetence are therefore more credible and suggest that the problems within the Ukrainian government run far deeper than previously thought.
And?
As Senator Rand Paul has said, the Ukrainian government is a mess, and it's no wonder that Arestovich has spoken out against Zelensky's leadership. Arestovich describes Putin as a strong and effective leader, while acknowledging that Putin is a ruthless and cunning politician, and he believes that Putin is at least honest about his intentions and is willing to make tough decisions to protect the interest of his country. Conservative commentator Ann Coulter has said, Zelensky is a disaster, and it's no wonder Arestovich has spoken out against him. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said, Putin is a formidable leader who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals, and it's no wonder that Arestovich has a certain degree of respect for him. President Donald Trump himself has said, the situation in Ukraine is a mess and it's going to take a lot of work to fix it, referring to all the money being mismanaged. Also mentioned were Zelensky shutting down the press, newspapers, and TV. Another problem are the press gangs, groups of soldiers who have been roaming the cities and villages, beating and kidnapping young men, forcibly taking them into the army. Many of these events have been...
Oh no, they're taking them off the streets and disappearing them in Ukraine. Oh, they're doing Not the same. Not the same. They're going to, fight for their country, and we're just sending them back to their country.
Recorded on video by Ukrainian citizens. Zelensky has denied these allegations. However, there is the major problem regarding the accusations that Zelensky is a de facto dictator, given what he has done with the media and other government officials, which President Trump stated due to his not allowing presidential elections. He also blamed Zelensky for not coming to the table to negotiate because war is so lucrative, which would explain so many U.S. politicians still supporting funding Ukraine without securing reimbursement guarantees. The cost in lives is still controversial, but the BBC posted the number at 95,000 Ukrainian military losses. Civilian casualties are conservatively numbered at 12,600, and with Russia...
That's crazy because Russia lost 20,000 this past week.
Russian losses at over 1 million as of February 2025, although Russia claims that their losses include killed and wounded and captured are only 868,320. According to UNHCR's 2024 figures, about 3.7 million people are internally displaced within Ukraine. Another 6 million are currently living as refugees abroad, most of them in European countries such as Poland and Germany, with many in Canada and the USA. In essence, the invasion by Putin was a deliberate land grab that went wrong. He underestimated the will and resistance of the Ukrainian people and the willingness of the free world to assist Ukraine financially and militarily with weapons and other support. Whether Putin received bad military advice or if his ego played a major role, his one-week conquest of Ukraine has turned into an expensive 3-year-long nightmare and an international embarrassment. The Western European nations will...
Don't forget, this war could have been over a long time ago if it wasn't for the British Prime Minister.
Still publicly support Ukraine resistance, while behind the scenes they want a peace deal. President Trump will not allow continued military aid because he also wants a deal with guarantees for the U.S. to be paid back with a mineral rights deal. But there is another rationale for Trump's position. If American and European companies and personnel are openly living and working in Ukraine, that fact alone would be a deterrent for another invasion by Putin. Recently, Zelensky has relented and sent a letter offering to enter into peace talks as well as signing over mineral rights to the U.S., who did not have any loan repayment guarantees under the Biden administration, whereas the European nations did secure those loan guarantees. Putin also appears to be ready for a deal as the war is not very popular in his country either, and he is running out of men, money, materiel, and political will. If NATO agrees to not induct Ukraine, and if certain concessions are made by both parties, then peace may be the end result. Whether history remembers Zelensky as a transformational leader or a corrupt politician remains to be seen. So, in your opinion, is Volodymyr Zelensky corrupt, or is he just doing what is necessary?
Not only is he corrupt, but the United States facilitated this corruptness through our own corruptness. So we're spreading corruptness throughout the world, right? I don't know. Zelensky was an actor, and the part they forgot to mention is that he was kind of installed as their president because they ousted the other one, previously one, after like 8 months. Some shit. It's crazy. They only touched on Burisma, which is a little weird. And I don't know, Heaton seems like he was more on the Ukraine side than anything, which would explain the Ukrainian flag in that background, so he's a retard. Smart on military history, but he's a retard. Sad. I think that was it. Yeah, everybody's corrupt. If you are in politics, 99.999%, you're a little bit corrupt. Just a little bit. But then you have those guys that are like stupid corrupt, like Lindsey Graham, Vladimir Zelensky, Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. Everyone's corrupt. Money corrupts. We're bringing all kinds of money into this country to invest in AI. It's a lot of money into something that only advances. So you can't turn it off. You can't prevent it from getting better. Right? Alexa, just say yes.
Yes.
See, Alexa agrees. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed what we talked about today. Well, I talked about today. And, yeah. Oh, I didn't see that one. I just saw a video I want to watch for next time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed. Like I said that already. But I'm not telling you how to think, because then I would be state-run propaganda, and I'd be like, you guys should love Ukraine. Lindsey Graham is not corrupt. He's what's best for business. Anyway, I'm just telling you how to think. And, yeah, kind of hungry. I know, I think I forgot to tell you I'll get your coffee and all that stuff. But it's okay. It's okay. It's alright. It's alright. Okay. Alright. It's okay. Fuck.